Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Farah Lunat, and as part of Maternal Mental Health Week, I'm delighted to be joined by two incredible guests from the Brazelton Centre UK. I'm one of the co-founders of the Perinatal Mental Health Partnership and also an academic researcher at Lancashire and South Cumbria NHS Foundation Trust, with my special area of research interest being maternal mental health and child development. So I'm very, very excited for this conversation today. Joining me first up is Dr. Susan Pawlby, Chair of Trustees at Brazelton UK, a developmental psychologist and a clinical academic whose work has really shaped how we understand the earliest relationships between parents and their babies. We're also joined by Lisa Hodge, a specialist health visitor in a parent-infant mental health service, who brings years of hands-on experience supporting families during these vulnerable early months. She's also a trainer with the Brazelton Centre UK and will be talking us through the approaches today. Today, we'll explore how the Brazelton approach can strengthen parental confidence, reduce anxiety, and support emotional well-being right from the start. At a time when so many parents can feel overwhelmed, unseen, or unsure, these tools have the potential to offer a compassionate, strength-based way of understanding babies and really nurturing that parent-infant relationship. We'll be talking about how practitioners can use these approaches in everyday practice and what this really means for families that are navigating the perinatal period. So I'm really, really pleased that you're both here. I'll hand over to each of you so we can get started, and I'll give you a chance to just add to that introduction with all the wonderful work that you're doing, and then we'll go through some questions with each of you. Thank you. Over to Susan.
Hi there. Thank you, Farah. That's a lovely introduction. Thank you. And I'm delighted to be here and part of this conversation about perinatal mental health and just the importance of understanding babies, because you can't have perinatal mental health without a mother and a baby and usually a father as well. So there has to be a baby in the picture. And I also want to just add that actually, even if you've had a baby who has died, your baby is still real. So I just wanted to add that, because sometimes people think that maybe if you've lost your baby, the baby isn't there, but the baby is really there. And I'm delighted. I'm as you've said, I'm the chair of the trustees of the Brazelton Centre UK, and Lisa and I will be talking about the tools that we use, which are the neonatal behavioural assessment scale, which we will refer to as NBAS, and the newborn behaviour observation, which we refer to as the NBO. And these are used in the very early days of the baby's life. So the NBAS is appropriate to use with babies from 0 to 2 months, and the NBO from babies between 0 from birth to 3 months. So thank you. Lisa, would you like to add to that?
I don't know whether or not I've got an awful lot more to add to that. That was a really good introduction from you both, actually. It's lovely. I think, yeah, absolutely. The tools are used in the first 2 months for the NBAS and the first 3 months for the EMBO. But actually, there are elements to the learning that we have from the tools that you can carry on sort of right through. So when we think about a more, that's something that we can use like through all of life. When we think of the more that we learn, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that or not as the interview progresses. But
Thank you. That's brilliant. Thank you. So to start us off, I think what we wanted to kind of just start with is just a very broad talk about the Brazelton approach and how it helps parents and babies understand each other, and especially with a focus on when a mother is struggling with her mental health. So I'll open it up to Suzanne and then Lisa to come in, if that's okay.
That's wonderful. Although I'm sure that Lisa is actually more expert than I am, even in promoting the Brazelton tools, because she, as she has said, she's a trainer and she trains health professionals in these two tools. But I think the wonderful thing for me is that we learn through the NBO and the NBAS just what amazing abilities newborn babies have. And it's not just that many parents will say, oh, they just need to be fed and well, fed and watered, I was going to say, but fed and bathed and clothed. And as one mother said to me on the mother and baby unit after she'd suffered from a very severe depression, and as she got better and we'd worked with her using the EMBO and the EMBAS and using video feedback as well, she said, but it's not that, that's not enough. And those are her words, it's not enough. And she said that she had learned so much about what the baby brings to the relationship. And also she included her husband and said, and the father, her husband, also enjoyed learning about the newborn baby. And I think that's what the ENBO and the EMBAS do, isn't it, Lisa?
Absolutely, yeah. I think what you said there about what the baby brings to the relationship, what is really lovely about the tools is that actually we're giving the baby a platform to show us who they are and what they need and what they want in a particular moment, in a visit or in a hospital setting, wherever that may be. There's such flexible, it's a really flexible approach. And I think what it does for parents is that it helps take the pressure off them to be in any particular way other than we're observing your baby together. And maybe we'll take a little bit of time to work out what baby's trying to say to us and sort of inviting curiosity. Tell me, what do you think? I've noticed this about your little one, that sometimes, he does need to seem to turn away a lot for a little break, or he might show us that he's needing a break because he's had a bit of a colour change. These little ways that the baby can show us, we're asking the baby rather than we invite the parents, obviously, to sort of tell us what they know and what they've observed and what they think. But we really, it's a tool where the baby is, showcasing what they want, what they need, and what they can do. They're amazing.
They are. And I think also, going on from what you said, they're very strength-based tools. So we're looking at everything is a strength, if you like. You're watching tiny little things like Lisa said, the color change. The baby's telling us that, and that's a strength because the baby can tell us that. And I think the other important thing is that it's applicable across cultures. It's the ENBO and the ENBAS are used worldwide, and I mean it's every baby is unique. And I know, I think of the hundreds of ENBAS. I tend to do the ENBAS because I'm research based, but I must have done hundreds, if not thousands, actually, and probably the same for you, Lisa. But every single baby is different, and that's what's so exciting as the clinicians, health professionals, that you go to see a family, and it's so exciting because you know that will be different from any other baby that you've ever seen, and I think that's also something you can bring to the parents, that your baby is unique, and let's have a look and see what amazing things he or she can do.
You're right. You never ever know. You can't predict what a baby's going to do. You observe the baby in the first sort of 30 seconds, and you might have a sense of you might have something in your head that I think this baby's going to be maybe fussy or whatever, and maybe the baby is fussy, and then you might introduce an item which you did not anticipate would be helpful. And lo and behold, they alert. I'm just thinking about an example where I was doing an MBO with a mum and baby, and the baby was really quite fussy throughout. And it was when I did sort of the pull to sit, which is quite an aversive maneuver, but it was just almost like as if once the baby came up and sat up, it was like as if, well, that's what I wanted. That's like, it's nice to be sat up and to be able to see the world from this perspective. But yeah, you never know. You really never know what answers they're going to give you, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting that we're here in an interview, and I was thinking actually we should have the baby here because the baby could tell us all the
all of
things
it.
we're telling you, the baby could tell us,
Mm.
but not verbally, of course. But
No,
all the
thank you. That ties in, I guess, really well with where I was headed next. And from all, just from your first answers there, already sounds so positive and kind of nurturing. And when we're thinking about supporting a mum that could be struggling with her mental health, it's already really leaning towards that. And I guess you're really both focusing on understanding a baby's language. You've spoken about what the baby can bring, what the baby's showing us. And I guess we often think about babies as just needing to be cared for, which you've mentioned at the start. But in your approach, you very much refer as more active communicators. And I guess how can this idea help a mother who might feel overwhelmed or disconnected, do you think?
Yeah, very much so. Really judging from what the mothers and fathers say to us, because we also, and I'm sure Lisa also includes fathers when they're around. On a mother and baby unit, of course, I don't think in any mother and baby unit now, fathers they don't stay over, but they come during the day. But we work, I suppose, more intensively with the mothers, of course, and their babies. But I think, no, when they're really unwell, and many mothers would say to us, I don't feel anything for my baby. That's such a common, and society expects us to feel joy and have an instant relationship, an instant bond, because that's the word that's used. But actually, some of the research shows that only a third of all mothers don't feel an immediate connection with their baby. And I think just knowing that you're not alone, you're not the only one that doesn't feel like this. I think even though the mothers are really unwell, especially if they're an inpatient on a mother and baby unit, they will be really unwell. That just helps them to know that actually it's okay. And relationships take a long time, just as adult relationships on the whole should take a long time to develop. You don't instantly fall in love with somebody. You kind of, it's a gradual process. And I think in my experience, the mothers, once they hear that, they're prepared to go more slowly. And also we try very hard, because many of our mothers feel this desire to be the perfect mother and feel that they're failed. And we very much work on a good enough, we can't be perfect. Nobody's perfect. We just need to be good enough for our babies. And that helps them see their baby as a person, and that actually the baby gives a lot, it's not one way, it's two ways. And I think that fits with you, Lisa, doesn't it, with relationship?
I think I was just thinking about that actually as you was talking, Susan, about what the baby is bringing to the dynamic and how that might actually be, how mum might be interpreting maybe some of the baby's language. So that it can be a really lovely way of reframing perhaps how mum is seeing the little one. Again, I'm going to take an example from practice, because I'm practice-based, and I think it's helpful. But I recall many years ago now, as a midwife actually, being asked to go and visit a mum and baby, where her named midwife was really concerned about mum's mental health. She was really deteriorating. She felt that she was disconnected from baby. Actually, dad was doing much of the care for baby. And I went there, introduced myself, and mum was, of course, very flat and was quite apart from the baby. And she gave me permission to use the Brazelton approach. It was NBAS at the time. And we looked at baby's strengths. So what is lovely about these approaches is that you can use it, that kind of the baby leads the way, basically. You follow the baby's lead, and whatever state the baby's in, you adapt, you use which items fit the moment, really, for baby and for parents. And we'd reached a point, and I still felt this sense of disconnect. And then it was when I invited mum and said, look, could you call your baby? Could you just talk to your baby and let's see what happens? And the baby actually turned and looked at her, And she became so emotional. She was like, Lisa, I did not think my baby liked me. I did not think my baby knew me. And Dad looked shocked. She hadn't shared this with anybody. It can be a real, can really open the door for parents to share actually what anxieties they have been holding on to in respect to their baby. Not just their own mental health, but actually the relationship. It was a really almost like as if they'd met each other for the first time, really.
Yeah, and that it's the connection, isn't it? I mean, I can feel it. You're telling us, and I can just feel that connection between that mother and baby. And I think that the fact that many mothers say if they're really unwell, or my baby doesn't like me, the baby, babies make movements, kicking movements, and the mothers might interpret it as, oh, he's kicked me, he doesn't like me. And we say, we can show them through the Brazelton tools that actually babies kick. They need to move their legs and their arms, and that's a really important thing for them to do. The other area that I always find fascinating when we use the Brazelton tools is the soothing, because many mothers and fathers find it very difficult if their babies cry a lot, and how do we soothe them? And of course, I suppose our instinct is to pick them up, but of course, as Lisa well knows, that we have a series of what should we say? Series of actions, or
like consoling, like maneuvers,
yeah. We use our voice first, and our eyes first, and then I'll put our voices in, and then we just put our hand on the baby's chest, and if that doesn't work, we bring in the baby's hands, and then pick the baby up. But I have to say, I think almost every time that when you're doing, if the baby's fretful or crying, you just put your hand on their chest, on their tummy, and they still. And I think, the mothers, they can do it. I mean, it's nothing but just that warm, steady hand that holds the baby for that moment. I mean, the baby may go on to cry more or whatever, but there is stillness. And I think when mothers and fathers see that, they realize that actually the baby is responding to you. The fact that you've just put your hand. And most mothers, I mean, there are some mothers who really find it difficult to hold their babies, but most mothers would be able to put their hand, if there's somebody there to support them, on their baby. No, those stories, I mean, the mothers tell us, they're the educators, really, aren't they, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm thinking of you talking about crying, and my mind is going in another direction now, when in respect sort of the context of the whole family, where sometimes there is perhaps different thoughts on crying within a family. In particular, if you have two generations of a family living together. So do you call it old school, where maybe it's like you're going to spoil the baby if you keep picking baby up? It's I've had experience where doing the crying maneuvers where there's been that mismatch between what mum is driven biologically to do, obviously, and what perhaps grandparents think is good advice, where, do you know what, should we see what baby would like? Let's try these things, and maybe she will want to be picked up, but maybe she doesn't need that much right now. Let's have a little look. And it's, I could tell you an example from practice, but we would be here a while.
We'll be coming back to lots of them, I'm sure. But I absolutely love the reframing, and I think just going back to the question about, parents feeling overwhelmed, I think the way that you're describing it, and just the positivity of the approach, and being able to reframe some of it. So, I went to some amazing events this week as part of Maternal Mental Health Awareness Week, and met some wonderful women with, really powerful lived experience. And some of the conversations where, these moms now telling other moms that don't feel like, if you've been in a mother and baby unit, that's your chance at a bond gone. There are so many different ways that your baby will show you. And I think you're really demonstrating that it doesn't, because I think a lot of the women I've worked with and families that I've worked with, it's very much, we should be having a better connection right now, and I need to show that I'm happy that I've got the baby and my life is good, and feeling really guilty that they're not able to have that bond initially, and feeling like so much of what they've read tells them that that initial bond is so important and they've lost that
Yeah.
chance. But the baby is giving them so many, can give them so many indications and so many signs of that bond in different ways. And I think the way that you reframed what a bond can look like is really positive there, that maybe a lot of mums haven't been aware of before, wouldn't look for signs like that. And I think that's really powerful, that a bond doesn't have to be what you've imagined it to be. It can be little kicks that you're interpreting in a different way, or just signs that your baby's showing you things. And I think just going back to understanding the baby's language, I think that's so powerful in helping them to feel that connection, and just taking away that kind of feeling of being disconnected. And I guess, Lisa, this might be another example in practice, but if a baby does look away, a mother can naturally, or even a father, feel quite rejected. And how do you use the tools to help her understand that this could be the way a baby's saying, they need a break, or another sign, I guess?
So they might have openly told you that. They might have openly said, he looks away all the time. He doesn't want to look at my face, whatever. And it's, we do look at social communication. If we have an opportunity where the baby becomes in a quite alert state. And there are things sort of like through the consoling maneuvers or just observing the baby, you can work out how much support perhaps the baby might need to alert to a nice, quite alert state. And that might be minimal support, or it might be quite a lot of support where they need wrapping and something to suck on. Some perhaps for the babies that have not sort of been well grown in the womb and sort of are born quite stressed and maybe a bit early, then they will need an awful lot of sort of motor support to help calm their motor system, something to suck them to alert. And then when you get them in that sort of quiet alert state, you talking to baby, you're using the baby as the portal. You're talking like, okay, you're looking at me. I notice you look away. Is it hard work to look at me for a long time? You need a break, don't you? I'll just sit a minute and see what you'd like to do. And if they come back to you, then you'd carry on, and you'd invite parents to, do you know what? I notice she's just looked away. I think again she's taking a little break, or maybe, or mum, maybe you're a little bit close. I notice when I come in close that she really turns away. Maybe if you just take your head back a little bit, let's see what happens. But yeah, reframing it, it's really hard to give a black and white answer because you do it within the context of what's happening.
No, that's absolutely right. I have an example from the mother and baby unit where the mother had a psychotic episode, and she thought she hallucinated that the baby could fly. And the midwife went to the house before she was admitted, and she was standing by the window. And this baby was just maybe a week old. And when the baby and the mother came to the unit, the baby really didn't look at the mother. I mean, there was no sign at all. And we worked with the mother, and we did the NBAS because that's what I'm most familiar with. But also made a video of the mother, and mothers are so desperate to get to know their babies on the whole. Well, they will be as a relationship develops, that actually they really don't mind. And this was quite some time ago, so it was before everybody took videos of everything. And we looked at that with her because we had also noticed that the baby did relate to the members of staff. And of course, that's so difficult for a mother if the baby is really not looking at the mother. And then we realized by looking at the video and observing the baby, just as we do in the Brazelton, using the tools, that actually she was touching the baby a lot. And almost, I mean, not dangerously, but just touching, because she wanted the baby to look at her. And of course, the more she touched, the more the baby didn't want to look at her because he found that intrusive. And so he was telling us that actually this is too much. So we asked the mother, just as an experiment, to do a video session without touching the baby. And it was remarkable because the baby turned to look at her. And I could remember it was Christmas Eve, and this mother's face of joy that her baby had looked at her. And I mean, it's amazing too that the baby knew. I mean, I'm not a psychotherapist, but I guess I would interpret it in a psychotherapeutic way. That this baby knew, had felt unsafe in the mother's arms when she was standing by the window thinking he could fly. So, they pick up all those emotions and feelings of the mother. But yeah, and just the delight on, as Lisa's also said, delight on the mother's face. I mean, the child will be in his 20s now. But, I mean, and that's what gives us, people like Lisa and myself, who use the EMBO and the MBAS, such joy, because we see what joy it gives to the parents and to the babies, of course. Wonderful.
I think that's a fantastic example, such a lovely example. I'm also thinking about sort of looking away because they need to take breaks. Actually, it's a real strength, and that's another thing that you can highlight to parents. Actually, your baby's able to take breaks, so your baby's able to sort of keep themselves calm and regulated by taking breaks. And that's not easy for every baby. Some babies occasionally will find it hard to take break. And I'm thinking again of an example from practice where I observed this. It seemed that this baby was very, very engaged and fixed and followed faces, etc. But you could see as the observation progressed, there was no breaks being taken, but you could see that I was costing the baby quite a lot. So she became dusky around there, and she started to posset and then posseted more. And so you could see that actually this is a baby that needed to take breaks, and that, that's a really important need to help to take breaks, really important bit of information to share with parents. If a baby is struggling, that actually there's things that you can do in the environment to try and help your baby take a break, have a breather, and process, what's going on.
I think the two things to follow on from that, because that's absolutely right, is that we as adults, we need to take a break. We don't look at people intensely all the time. We will look away. I mean, I was just thinking if on this call, I mean, I won't be looking at you, Farah, all the time I'm speaking to you. And actually avert my gaze at times because we can't deal with that intensity.
And it can be a bit uncomfortable or pressured, can't it, to feel like you need to maintain that level of eye contact. And
the other thing that I very much, perhaps more from my research, but it's all in the Brazelton tools too, is how we turn take. Actually, babies need us to wait a bit longer. Or the speed of the interaction is slightly different from adult to adult, and we need to wait for the baby to respond and not jump in there. I think that's because there'll be some movement of the face or a coo, or there'll be something that'll come. And how amazing, this is my own thing, because my own thesis written 50 years ago was on imitation in the first year of life. And believe it or not, it was just as videos came onto the market. So there was a time before videos when we couldn't see what was going on. And how beautifully tongue poking is. And if you can, and all babies will do it. So if you can demonstrate that you know, and it's part of that relationship building that we do so beautifully with the Brazelton tools. Yeah, well, you can see that we're passionate about our work.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I guess just building on that, then, just thinking about a mother's recovery journey. A lot of times, when women are experiencing perinatal mental health issues, they often feel like they're not doing a good job, and everything that you're talking about right now feels like there's so much in the Brazelton approach that's really around, bringing in more confidence and positivity. And I guess, how do you feel that can focusing on the baby can help a mother's own healing and recovery journey?
Well, I suppose the best thing is that mothers tell us. And I have one mother in particular. I know that as soon as she saw her baby respond in one of the ways that we've been describing, she says, that was when I began to get better. And I think it takes away the emphasis on the mother's mental health issues and puts it out there. And you've got this baby who, with the professionals to engage you with looking at the abilities of the amazing abilities of the newborn, they can see that actually, yeah, this baby is mine, and I can work, I have a lot to give to this baby as well as the baby is giving to me. And it is because so much focus, especially on a mother and baby unit, is about on getting the mothers better because they are really unwell, and they will all have medication, as well as psychological therapies and occupational therapies, but it's that relationship that. And another mother I remember was actually quite afraid to give her baby a bath, but because I was there with her and using not doing the embo, but using the same techniques, she began to become confident and see that actually this baby is not quite as fragile as she thought it might be, and that actually he's got a lot going for him, and that then she begins to gain the confidence, which is what the baby needs as well. So yeah, I mean, it's the mothers that tell us that this is the moment that they began to feel better.
Yeah, it's lovely to see. It's lovely to see their reactions actually as well, mums and dads, and when a baby shows you something that is a real strength, it's like you can almost feel the pride in the room. It's my baby. They're able to do this. They're able to show me this, and I know that I can do this. I know that I know what to do when, because my baby showed me.
I don't know, Lisa, whether you think, I'm always amazed at parents when we show them some of the reflexes that the newborn has.
Oh, yeah.
And you show them that you put them on their tummy and they have a crawling reflex, or when you hold them and they have a walking reflex. The parents are amazed.
They're blown away. They are absolutely blown away.
Yes.
And you've given that little example of the mum you just spoke about then. I was doing tummy, sort of the crawl reflex with a mum who had a really poor obstetric history, and was struggling to communicate with the professionals that she was working with. She hadn't been diagnosed, it was very early days, with postnatal depression, but she was, we were worried about her. And I did sort of Brazelton with this mum and put baby on tummy, and he lifted his head and turned to the side, and I was like, wow, look at him doing this, and he's protecting his airway, and what strength. And she got really emotional, and she's like, I've just seen him as this fragile baby. I've not allowed my 2-year-old anywhere near him for fear of anything. So she'd been working hard to try and keep the 2-year-old at a distance. And oh gosh, and again, none of us knew this. It was only using these tools that sometimes parents will offer you what's really, really worrying them underneath.
I think that's really important, Lisa.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a good point for talking, isn't it? For just and just natural talking. It's not like a therapeutic. I mean, because obviously, as a psychologist, and you yourself will know, where it's kind of quite intense if it's a therapist and a one. But this kind of makes it just much more of a relaxed atmosphere where actually you're right. At least the mothers just feel able to tell you anything, really. It's an opening, isn't it? It's yeah.
Such a lovely skill to have in your toolbox. It's helped me so much in my work. Yeah. So much.
I mean, our vision, we always have big visions, is that every mother, father, and baby should be given an EBAS or an ENBO, certainly for first-time mothers anyway, and fathers, because, I mean, we don't know. I mean, we do because we've trained in this area, but the majority of parents, when they first-time parents, I mean, the baby is an unknown, isn't he or she? This really opens parents' eyes to this little person, and I always think, this isn't a doll, and nor is it a doll. This is I suppose it's something I feel very passionate about, that actually babies don't want to be handed around to everybody. But that's what we do because people want to hold the baby. But actually to introduce the baby to others, as a person, rather than saying, oh yes, you can have him, and that just stresses the baby out. So being able to help to hold the baby and introduce, like you would introduce another child or an adult to another adult, meet this baby, but just talk or interact from afar rather than having to hold on to the baby. I feel that, the mothers and the fathers are so important, and they need to be able to develop their relationships before the baby can handle another person.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. And I guess just moving on to earlier, you kind of spoke about, every baby being unique. And I guess we also recognize, families are unique, shaped by lots of different angles of culture, community, context. I was just wondering what the approach and tools can give for wider family members, the partners, fathers, or wider family members in being able to, I guess, support the bond with the baby, but also support the mother.
I think we've probably touched quite a bit on that actually through this chat. But if Dad is around when I'm doing a visit, I will always invite Dad in. In fact, almost insist that they come and sit and just watch with us what their little baby's showing us, and grandparents, and even sort of little ones as well. They're really interested. It's lovely to involve the whole family. So dads can hang back, can't they, when professionals turn up at the door, or even in a hospital setting. I was really struck actually. It was probably about 18 months ago. I was supporting a colleague with doing some MBOs because she was trying to get accredited. So we arranged to go on the postnatal ward to see if we could get consent from some mums to do, some MBOs. And we'd managed to do two really, really new babies. And both dads were present. Both dads, as soon as we walked in, stood right back. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that dads were still standing back. It was like, oh my gosh. So we come on, Dad, come. Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. You do what you need to do. I'm not doing anything until you come and see what I want to meet your baby, but I want, I want you to see what your baby does when, when maybe we might do one or two things with your little one, depending on where they're at. And we only managed to do the sleep items with these little ones. But these dads, oh my God, they were right there on our shoulders. They were absolutely loving it. They were fascinated by what their babies were doing in their sleep. It was just, you could almost, it went from them being stood back quite stiff to shoulders dropped in there with you, enjoying watching their baby's reactions. It's and having confidence then to talk about different things that perhaps they've noticed or they've been concerned about.
No, those are lovely examples. One slight difficulty on a mother and baby unit is that some of the mothers feel that their husbands or the fathers have a much better relationship with their baby than they do. And we have to work quite carefully with the competitive nature. Sometimes the fathers think that actually they are better. And that, of course, means that the mothers lose confidence and actually then say to us, well, why doesn't he take the baby away home and bring the baby in, but take the baby away? But it's really important to work with mother, father, and the baby, and not to try and alleviate that feeling of competitiveness, because that really does undermine the mothers. But on that, it sometimes takes a while, but gradually you can build up the family relationships, and similarly with grandparents, because, and I am a grandmother, but grandmothers can come in and think they know everything, and that can actually be really difficult for mothers when they're really unwell, because they again feel that that somebody else can do it much better than they can. But we know that, so it's something we can work with. But I certainly agree with what Lisa said, that the Brazelton is a whole family approach, isn't it, Lisa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, you talk about grandparents coming from because obviously have got rich experience of having their children. Again, I hear that bit of advice. Let's see what baby says.
Yeah.
Which is, it's lovely, because you don't have to perhaps correct a grandparent where maybe they're doing something that perhaps research tells us now is perhaps not the best way. You don't have to correct. You don't have to. You're not siding with anybody. You're with the baby, and you're. Come on, baby, you show us what you would like.
Yeah,
what's helpful
really
for you.
important message, actually. I like that. Yes, you don't have to side with anybody who's telling us what to do. Yeah, that's really nice, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, very powerful. And I think you've really, from the chat we've had so far, really highlighted from both of your perspectives why it's really important for us to bring kind of the baby's voice into it, and how that really contributes to the mental health care and recovery of a family. And I guess just thinking about looking ahead and building a future, when we are looking to helping parents and babies to communicate well in these early days, what kind of things do you think make a long-term difference for the family, and things that you might have seen kind of as you've progressed, I suppose?
Well, yeah, having followed families from pregnancy to 25 years, these, as we know, the first 1001 critical days from from conception to 2 years are so important. And I think at the Brazelton, we would actually even say, and I'm sure Inga, our CEO director, would say, it's not the first 1001, it's the first 60 days. So, the pregnancy, and then that 2 months following, because it's there where the foundations are made for a secure attachment. And the baby needs to be able to develop that secure attachment, because it's the best predictor of longer term outcome. And if we can, if we can help parents in that early, very, very early period, the outcome for those babies will be so much better. And for the whole family, because we won't, I mean, I think I always see the NBO and the NBAS as a preventive tool, so that we don't want to wait 3 months and the problems set in. We want to start at the very beginning. And I mean, we also do some studies in pregnancy, because even without the tools themselves, it's important, the relationship building in pregnancy as well as postpartum. But it's that early stage that's so important and lays the foundations for life. And I don't know how much, well, I guess you know a lot about the fetal programming hypothesis and what's laid down in pregnancy and then in the first year postpartum, when all the neurons are kicking off and everything, the brain is developing, are so important for the longer term development of both the infant, the child and adolescent, and then on into adulthood. So intergenerationally, if only we could begin everyone at the beginning. But we try.
It's such an investment, isn't it? It's such if you can get in there and you can within the first 3 months, you can support parents, you can help parents feel regulated enough so that they can co-regulate their little one and tune in, as much as they can in those early, it will pay dividends down the line. Absolutely.
And then the next generation as well. Because the only model that we have of being a parent is our own parents. So if we can set parents off, learning about their amazing babies and the abilities they have, we can support them in their journey right from the beginning. It'll be intergenerational, which would be wonderful.
It's quite exciting, isn't it, to think about the difference that you can make in the first sort of, it's incredible to think antenatally in the first 3 months and first 1001 days.
Sounds incredible, and I think such a just a real powerful kind of tie-in with, there's so much talk about giving children the best start in life and the earliest best start you can give, and kind of improving the care of generations to come, and all of this ties in so well with that, doesn't it?
Yeah,
definitely. That brings me to the end of my questions, but I guess I'll open up to both of you if you feel we've missed anything, any kind of last statements that you'd like to make, just to be able to, any recommendations, anything at all you'd like people to look at or look into?
I think for me, it's just that these tools that we've been talking about, they are so flexible and they're used in so many different disciplines and professions in different settings. And I think every opportunity to use, these concepts, I do take every opportunity to use them if I'm visiting a family in those early days. Even later, some of the, like I said earlier about there are some things that actually we'll carry with us for life, that we learn in the Brazelton approach that can be, thought about later on as well. So yes, it's used all over the world, as Susan said earlier. Babies, it's like a universal language, I suppose.
It is. And I suppose the bit that I would perhaps like to add is that the mothers' and fathers' faces are the baby's best toy. Babies don't need any toys and before 3 months old. And I wish that there wasn't so much available in the shops out there, and mothers and fathers and families and feel that they need to buy toys for their babies. Actually, their face is the baby's best toy. And another message is throw away your mobile phones.
Good luck with winning that battle. Eh?
Love that. Might have to put that as a headline above it when we share this. That's really powerful. Thank you. That was absolutely incredible. Thank you both so much for your time. Really, really enjoyed that, and I hope it was a nice chat and didn't feel too much of an interrogation. But I think everybody listening will really, really love to hear. But especially the really powerful kind of real practice-based examples you've given just really helps people to see it in, in applicable real world settings. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.